Hello. Subject matter today is why Blessed John Henry Newman wrote his volume Apologia pro Vita sua. I'll quote from that book. I cannot be sorry to have forced my accuser to bring out in fullness his charges against me. It is far better that he should do so in my lifetime than after I am dead. Under the circumstances, I am happy to have the opportunity of reading the worst that can be said of me by a writer who has taken pains with his work and is well satisfied with it. I account it again to be surveyed from without by one who hates the principles which are dearest to my heart, has no personal knowledge of me, to set right his misconceptions of my doctrine, and with some motive or other to be as severe with me as he possibly can be. I wish to impute nothing worse to him than that he has been furiously carried away by his feelings. Yes, and I say it with stern sorrow, he has attempted a great transgression. He has attempted, as I may call it, to poison the wells. I will quote him and explain what I mean. The tutor of the British monarch says, I am henceforth in doubt and fear as much as any honest man can be concerning every word Dr. Newman may write. How can I tell that I shall not be duped by his cunning equivocations? These insinuations shall be answered in their proper places. All this is just now by the way. My present subject is my accuser. What I insist upon here is this unmanly attempt of his, in his concluding pages, to cut the ground from under my feet, to poison by anticipation the public mind against me, John Henry Newman, and to infuse into the imaginations of my readers suspicion and mistrust of everything that I may say in reply to him. This I call poisoning the wells. Well, I can only say that if his taunt is to take effect, I am but wasting my time in saying a word in answer to his calumnies, and this is precisely what he knows and intends to be its fruit. I can hardly get myself to protest against a method of controversy so base and cruel, lest in doing so I should be violating my self-respect and self-possession. But most base and cruel it is. So will it be if my accuser succeeds in his manoeuvres. But I do not for an instant believe that he will. Whatever judgment my readers may eventually form of me from these pages, I am confident that they will believe me in what I shall say in the course of them. I have no misgivings at all that they will be ungenerous or harsh towards a man who has been for so long before the eyes of the world, who has so many to speak of him from personal knowledge, whose natural impulse it has ever been to speak out, who has ever spoken too much rather than too little, who would have saved himself many a scrape if he had been wise enough to hold his tongue, who has ever been fair to the doctrines and arguments of his opponents, who has never slurred over facts and reasonings which told against himself, who has never given his name or authority to proofs which he thought unsound, or to testimony which he did not think at least plausible, who has never shrunk from confessing a fault when he felt that he had committed one, who has ever consulted for others more than for himself, who has given up much that he loved and prized and could have retained, but that he loved honesty better than name and truth better than dear friends. However, the decision of the time and mode of my defence has been taken out of my hands, and I am thankful that it has been so. I am bound now as a duty to myself, to the Catholic cause, to the Catholic priesthood, to give account of myself. I accept the challenge. I shall meet it, and I shall be content when I have done so. I will break through this barrier of prejudice against me, if I can, and I think I shall be able to do so. When first I read the pamphlet of accusation, I almost despaired of meeting effectively such a heap of misrepresentations and such a vehemence of animosity. What was the good of answering first one point and then another, and going through the whole circle of its abuse, when my answer to the first point would be forgotten as soon as I got to the second? What hope was there of condensing into a paragraph or a pamphlet of a readable length matters which ought freely to expand itself to half a dozen volumes? My accuser asks, what then does Dr. Newman mean? I reflected, and I saw a way out of my perplexity. Yes, I said to myself, his very question is about my meaning. What does Dr. Newman mean? He said. It pointed in the very same direction as that into which my musings had turned me already. He asked what I mean, not about my words, not about my arguments, not about my actions, as his ultimate point, but about that living intelligence by which I write and argue and act. He asks about my mind and its beliefs and its sentiments, and he shall be answered, not for his own sake, but for mine, and for the sake of the religion which I profess, and of the priesthood for which I am unworthily included, and of my friends and of my foes, and of that general public, which consists of neither one nor the other, but of well-wishers, lovers of fair play, sceptical cross-questioners, interested inquirers, curious lookers-on, and simply strangers, unconcerned yet not careless about the issue. For the sake of all these he shall be answered. My perplexity did not last half an hour. I recognized what I had to do, though I shrank from both the task and the exposure which it would entail. I must, I said, give the true key to my whole life. I must show what I am, that it may be seen what I am not, and that the phantom may be extinguished which gibbers instead of me. I wish to be known as a living man, and not as a scarecrow which is dressed up in my clothes. False ideas may be refuted indeed by argument, but by true ideas alone are they expelled. I will vanquish not my accuser but my judges. I will indeed answer, but one by one, lest anyone should say that they are not all answered. I will draw out as far as may be the history of my mind. The history of my mind. I will state the point at which I began, in what external suggestion or accident each opinion had its rise, how far and how they developed from within, how they grew, were modified, or combined, were in collision with one another, and each changed again, how I conducted myself towards them, and how far, and for how long a time I thought I could hold them consistently with my ecclesiastical engagements, which I had made, and with the position which I held. I must show that the doctrines which I held, and have held for so many years, have been taught to me, speaking humanly, partly by the suggestions of Protestant friends, partly by the teachings of books, and partly by the action of my own mind. And thus I shall account for that phenomenon which to so many seems so wonderful, that I should have left my kindred and my Father's house at such great sacrifice, for a church, the Catholic Church, from which once I turned away in dread. I will simply write the history of my mind. I therefore created my Apologia pro Vita sua,